So briefly. So earlier in the week, I noted Rav Lichtenstein's mashal to describe the importance of Vayakel PERKUDEI. I think you were both here, yeah. Right? Namely, right, that the real novelty of the details of Vayakel PERKUDEI are that nothing, or the same relationship, that nothing changed. That when Hashem says He forgave them, He really did forgive them, and therefore is willing to build a home together with the Jewish people in with the same intensity, in the same, detail, painstaking detail that he was before. It's interesting to note, and this I didn't say then, but I think it's worth noting, that there are actually Rishonim who think that this capacity of God to forgive, where human beings would not in the same moment, is in fact the, or if not the, one of the most definitional differences between God and human beings. I'll repeat that for Zev, right? Building on what we'd said earlier in the week, right? That Rav Lichtenstein's mashal for Vayakel PERKUDEI, the reason we go back to the details to show that God really forgave the Jews in a situation when a human being might not have forgiven. So as I said, there are Rishonim who believe that really is what makes God unique. And just to sort of illustrate that, if you look at Yeshayahu Perek Nun Vav, which you all know, you really do. You do.
It's one of the Torahs.
Which one?
That's a famous one.
Nachum.
No, we read it much more often than Nachamu. No. Taniyot. Yeshua Adonai b'himatzo, kiru b'yato karov, yazov rashat darko, v'yishav machshavotav, v'yashov el Adonai, v'yirachameu, v'eloheinu ki yarbel esloach, ki lo machshavotay machshavotechem, v'lo darchechem derachaynu Adonai. Right, so, seek out God when He can be found, call Him when He's near, when He's close. The Rasha, the evil one, should leave his path, and the one of iniquity his thoughts, and return to God, and God will have mercy on him. And our God, for He forgives. Right? And then there's the next pasuk. Ki lo machshavotay machshavotechem lo darchechem derachaynu Hashem. Right? For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways. What is the connection between those two? Right? Why is it that Yazov Rasha Darko is followed Kilo Machshavotay Machshavotechem? And several Rishonim argue what I just said, because the paradigmatic way that you see Kilo Machshavotay Machshavotechem Lo Darchem Derachai is in the fact that God is willing to say Yazov Rasha Darko V'yishav en Machshavotav. Right? Even Ezra writes this, and he says Tamo Ki Chashavtem Shekmo Lochem Ra Afal Pisha Tashuvu Elai. You think that I'm going to punish you, even though you've done tshuva, you've returned to me. Al Kain Lo Machshavotechem, and therefore, after I tell you return to me, I have to explain to you that is possible because I don't think the way you do. Because I want to do good for you. And that way, my ways are not yours. My ways are straight. And Radak says the same thing. He says, if a man were to sin against his friend, he'll take revenge. And he won't forgive him. And then, coming back to Rav Lichtenstein's mashal, it's almost, I wonder whether Rav Lichtenstein was really based on this Radak, because he really was, at some point when I was in yeshiva, Rav Lichtenstein, right, Gush had, created, the modern Tanakh revolution. Rav Lichtenstein was not really part of this. Right? He and he was, I think, sometimes somewhat ambivalent about it. And at some point in Shir, he made a comment to us because we didn't, the Gemara was quoting some psukim, and we weren't, all quite familiar with context as much as we should. And he ripped into all of us, he's like, you all know the newest pshat by Rav Ben Nun, right? But you don't actually know, you you don't actually know Tanakh. And some point he commented he may not be part of this Tanakh thing, but he does know all of Tanakh with Radak, right? Like there's no pasuk you're going to catch him. Like that wasn't arrogant. It was just like a point, right? That you can, right? That first you need to know Tanakh before you get all
fancy.
Yeah. And he said, so the Radak, you're right. Ki im chata adam l'chaveiro yinaken mimenu. If a person would sin, then, right, a person sinned against you would take revenge. V'lo yimcholo. And you won't forgive him. V'af al pi shimcholo b'nir'en. He says, and even if you seem to forgive him, yishmor lo bilibo. It's something, right, you'll hold in your heart. V'nir'eh yikra derech. And that which is seen is called a way. Right? So he says, Lo machshavotai machshavotechem, lo darchem darachai. Ki ani marbelis loach, lo karchem, v'chasher mochel, ani mochel be'emet, lo yisher tzlei me'avon ha'inyan, me'avon davar. Said, right, derech is what's on the outside, machshavah is what's on the inside. It's like, I neither will act the way you do after I've forgiven them, and even in my heart of hearts, so to speak, whatever that means for God, right? You, even if you are really trying to not act out revenge, in your heart, right, there's still a remnant. And God says, for me there isn't. Not in my derech and not in my machshava. So, it's not just that post the Egel, you see that God forgives them, which is a chiddush. Right? The Radak and the Ibn Ezra take the position that this is in fact what defines God's uniqueness. And there is a pasuk in Tehillim that does seem to not only, and this will bring us full circle, that not only connects God's uniqueness to the fact that He forgives, but connects it specifically to the Egel. Right? The Egel and its aftermath. Right? This is Tehillim Perkuf Gimel. Rachum v'chanun Adonai erech apayim v'rav chesed. Right? That's the Egel Midos HaRachamim right there. That should set up bells. Right? And then he says, and what is the translation of that? What is the upshot of the fact that God has the Egel Midos HaRachamim? Lo l'netzech yariv V'lo le'olam yitor, that not for eternity will he fight, and not for eternity will he hold a grudge. Lo kachatainu aseh lanu, v'lo kavanotenu gomal aleinu. Not like our sins has he done to us, and not like our iniquities has he paid us back. And then tying it back into Yeshayahu, which is not my guess. Ki chegova shamayim al haaretz. Because as high as the heaven is over earth, right? Which is, remember, the next pasuk in Yeshayahu, right? Do you remember this?
I don't remember by heart.
Lo machshavotai, right? Lo machshavotai, machshavotechem l'rechem derachai, ki gova shamayim v'aretz, right? Gavru chazol yireyav. Right, I'll just throw in one last point. Right, so it does seem to be that this pasuk in Tehillim, right? Meaning, assuming Yeshayahu was looking at Tehillim. Right? It's not just random, right? That God's capacity for forgiveness is what defines God, right? If you look at the pasuk in Tehillim, it turns out that it was the manifestation of that ability to forgive when he expressed the Yud Gimel Midat HaRachamim in the aftermath of the Ched HaEgel, that expresses God's uniqueness in a way that no other forgiveness does, which would be a good evidence to Rabbi Jonathan's point that that's why PERKUDEI has to, in its deepest sense, manifest the proof of God's absolute forgiveness, which is in the end of the day what defines God's uniqueness. I'll just note that if I remember correctly, I have to look back at it, but I haven't looked at this in like a decade. But the Malbim on that next pasuk, on Ki Gavu Shamayim Me'aretz, says, right, this is a bit mathematical, right? It's sort of a funny... No, not like that. Right, he says, what is the pshat of Ki Gavu Shamayim Me'aretz, right? Saying that the difference between us and God is like heaven versus earth.
500 feet.
So he takes it that earth, it's like sea level, it's zero. Right, that like in the olam of Chazal, right, when you say aretz, what you mean is zero. And therefore, right, the difference isn't quantitative, it's qualitative, it's infinite. Right, because it's the difference between zero, right, and infinity. Right?
Isn't it easier just learn figurative?
What?
Isn't it easier just learn how to figure?
Oh, for sure, but it's even if he's not pshat, right? The point is that it's not just like a little bit, right? I think that's really the point, right? It's not like a little bit. It's the difference between heaven and earth, right? You could say it figuratively and say it's the difference between day and night, right? I mean, that expression means it's not you forgive a little bit, I forget a lot. It's you forgive and I actually let go. Right, I think that's really the upshot of that interpretation. So I think that's just a sort of a deepening of that perspective of the role of Vayakal PERKUDEI following Kittis, an expansion of Rabbi Jonathan's idea, but this time grounding it in Yeshayahu and Tehillim.